While watching popular MMOs Creeper Titan challenge games, a decision that he made certainly intrigued me. He went the path of the enchanted golden apples and hoped that the additional region and protection that it gave him over the armor would help him survive that battle. But it's always been of my opinion that going from region 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 doesn't really add that much of a benefit. So today let's put my ideas to test and calculate the diminishing marginal utility of each additional level of region and resistance and a combination of the two, and finally find out once and for all how exactly useful getting that enchanted golden apple is. To do that, here we have 4 zombies with swords of sharpness 10, 20, 30 and 40. Since I'm in 1.9, they do a little bit less attack damage, and that's still okay because in the challenge games not many mobs do more than 30 attack damage, so that should be fine. If I think it's really necessary towards the end of the video, I'll do a sharpness 100 region 100 test, because why not. I will be doing this by going to survival mode without any armor. I'll be walking up to these fellows and getting hit. I'll calculate the number of hearts lost and whether I die or not. If I die, I'll just calculate it as a death and not 10 hearts lost, because that's a chance that it does more than 10 hearts and I die anyway, and I won't be able to know that. So I tested it out with regions 1 through 10 all without armor, and I found out that I died every single time in a single hit. So I've decided to use diamond armor instead, full diamond armor, and let's just see what those tests yield. So here are my findings. As I expected, the damage dealt does not really depend upon the resistance. So sharpness 10 sword, which does 12 attack damage, did 6 hearts of damage to me, which is correct. 12 into 2, 12 by 2 is 6. Sharpness 20, even though it is not a complete 20 attack damage, not 10 hearts completely, it still killed me in one shot every single time, and that didn't really give me any information. So what I did was I timed how long it took to completely regen back to a full set of 10 hearts, and I noted those values down. That's the column you're seeing, the second last column you're seeing on your right. For region 1 it took 29 seconds, and then it decreases linearly all the way till region 3, 8 seconds each time, and then it goes down to 6 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second, and then from region 7 onwards everything's just basically instant. So I calculated the marginal utility in terms of seconds, and if anybody here has studied economics, you know that it pretty closely follows the law of diminishing marginal utility. So in my opinion, region 4, which is also the most you can get in game legally, is the best possible option. It has a lower marginal utility increase from 3 to 4 as just 2 to 3, but the time it takes to go back to full is also much less. So if you have an option to go from region 3 to region 4, I would suggest you take it. Otherwise, it's not really useful to trade out an enchanted golden apple. An enchanted golden apple doesn't give you region 4, it just gives you region 2 or 3 if I'm not wrong. So the next time you really think about it, keep this table in mind. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test out how useful resistance is. Unlike regeneration, resistance actually affects the damage dealt to the player. So I will do a similar test with resistances 1 through 10, just to give you guys an idea of how I'll be conducting my tests. Let me just clear all potion effects. As we've established, regeneration doesn't affect the number of damage points I take. So I'm going to be giving myself regeneration 10, or rather a lower value of regeneration ideally. Let's see, maybe regeneration 3. Regeneration 3 should be fine. And then I'll slowly be increasing the resistance values that I take. So right now I'll be taking resistance 1, and I'll fall into the pen with the sharpness 10 guy. Let's just see how much damage I take. Okay, so there you go. Earlier it went down to 4 hearts. Now it's going down only to 5 hearts. Let me just show you that again. Come on, guy, hit me, hit me. There you go, 5 hearts. So I'll be doing that with all these guys over here, and I'll tabulate my results and I'll show you guys now. For resistance, we have some very interesting results, as you can see over here. Resistance is definitely better than regeneration if you're going to go into a fight. Resistance 1, um, with resistance 1 on, you still died for 22.5 attack damage and 27.5 attack damage. But as you can see, the damage that you took constantly reduces. For instance, when the damage dealt is 12, as your resistance increases from 1 to 3 to 4, you basically stop taking damage. Resistance 4 is the maximum in game, and any resistance greater than that, resistance 5, through any number, you basically take no damage. I tested this idea out further, and I gave myself instant damage for 100 seconds and resistance 100, and I still took no damage. So that leads me to believe that resistance is definitely better than regeneration if you're going to a fight with full health. But I'm not convinced completely that resistance has no effect beyond resistance 4. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do fall tests. I'm going to fall from predetermined heights of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and so on blocks and see how much damage I take with each resistance. So here I am at the top of a 100 block drop, and I'm going to test out the effect of resistance 2 and while I'm dropping 100 blocks down. So let me enter survival, and let's just see what happens. And I die. So I'm going to do the same thing, but for all 10 resistance values and for all the 100 blocks, and I'm going to tabulate my results and show you guys what I found out. So here are the last set of readings. They're extremely interesting. With fall height, resistance damages decreases linearly. Sorry, by that I mean that the damage dealt by fall damage with resistances from level 1 through 10 decreases linearly. And the minimum damage you can take is 0, and obviously the maximum damage is death. And another interesting thing that I've noticed is there is 3.5 hearts of fall damage. That's 7 fall damage for every 10 blocks, and that stays more or less a constant. It is exactly a constant, but there are, because of the zeros, you don't exactly see that. But if you were to look between 20 and 30, you can see that between them, at every single resistance level, the fall damage is exactly 3.5 in difference. So in conclusion, if you don't want to take damage and you already have hearts, resistance is the way to go. Resistance 3 or resistance 4 is the best. Resistance 3 is easier to obtain and more likely if you were to get something like a lucky potion, but resistance 4 is better. With resistance 4, you basically take no damage. If you're going to fall through places, I would suggest feather falling, but if you don't have feather falling, then resistance 3 or 2 is a pretty good bet. I don't think you're going to be falling through more than 70 blocks, 30 blocks. So yeah, just to make, that's about it. Thanks for watching.